I'm humbled by your experience, by your transparency, by your self-acceptance and willingness to share all of this.
I think about my bio all the time because when I read it, it feels almost foreign to me. It's like,
how do you define yourself? What are your emotional needs? And then the way in which those emotional needs are filled by your parents.
who I am internally and what I'm actually going through is not at all what this.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are following us from. My name is Kadi. As you know, welcome to another episode of the Becoming Podcast, Conversations in Self-Actualization. As you know, we have conversations every week with leading ladies about their experiences in becoming who they are, what helped them to get there, and what challenges they faced along the way. Today, I am with Wiatta Thomas. I have the pleasure of being with an award-winning entrepreneur, venture builder. Wiatta founded Dare to Innovate, which is the first business incubator in Guinea, widely recognized around the world. She's been featured on Forbes. She was a TED 22 fellow and is just a bright light and a brilliant mind. So I am extremely pleased to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy I met you.
I did. We met by chance not too long ago and found out that we have the same perspectives on a lot of different things, and have been going through very similar experiences and are at similar stages in our lives, and really wanted to have this conversation, I guess to bring each other up on sort of what we found out and where we wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And I know I just introduced you as who you are, but as perhaps who society would define you as, right? Because these are the things that we say. There are CVs, there are resumes, there are LinkedIn profiles. But who is Wiatta today?
That is so real. This whole, like you just said, I think about my bio all the time because when I read it, it feels almost foreign to me. It's like who I am internally and what I'm actually going through is not at all what this says, you know? And there's so many side stories that are deeper in that. Yeah. Like I started out, I don't even know where to start. So I built Dare to Innovate because I deeply had this passion for the continent. I grew up in the States during the war in Liberia. I'm Liberian. And I knew I wanted to be on the continent. I knew I wanted to be doing something about development of the continent. And so I moved as soon as I graduated from college, I worked in some startups for a little bit, and then I moved to the continent. I went with Peace Corps. Okay. So I became a Peace Corps volunteer. I knew I wanted to be on the ground. And I built this organization with some of my colleagues. And I just kept excelling. I just kept, moving forward. And things kind of just organically, I won't say organically, but it just kept being like milestone after milestone and hitting them fairly quickly. Like we started the organization. It went from literally like $30,000 that we raised from friends and family to $1 million organization in 4 or 5 years. Oh, wow. And multi-million-dollar revenue. Getting, all of these accolades. And in 2020, I hit a wall and had a very, very deep burnout. And I experienced in 2020, from 2020 to 2022, I was very, very sick, while I was also on this international stage, right? And so I was going through the lowest of lows of my life at a time when everyone was like, Wiatta. Yeah. I'm getting like, all of these fellowships. I'm a TED fellow. Like I'm on the TED stage when I'm literally like in my hotel room crying and not able, like barely able to like pull myself out of bed every day. And so like I read this bio, and it's just like I know what was really behind, what was going on behind all of that, right? Yeah. And I'm in a space now since 2022. I moved to Senegal. I was really like, I need to step away from being an entrepreneur and having to be the face of everything and the the larger than life figure that I've been. And I need to take a step back and rebuild myself in a way that's sustainable, because this is not sustainable for me. I didn't feel like I had the foundation that I needed to be able to sustainably build at that sort of pace. And so I am right now I'm in a place where I'm rebuilding my courage. I'm rebuilding my sense of self. I'm rebuilding, what does my career look like? What does my future look like? Am I still an entrepreneur? I know that I'm entrepreneurial, right? But what does that look like? Do I want to work for people and build their ideas? Do I want to build my own? Continue to build my own. I'm just in a place where I'm rebuilding. Redefining who Wiatta is. Without all of, without the fanfare, without the accolades, without the lightning sort of exponential growth every year that's just like getting bigger and bigger without me even like having any control over it. That's what it felt like. It felt like very much like, this is getting away from me. How do I don't know how to even operate within this, right?
No, that's an experience I can definitely relate to. I mean, I've also had a burnout, and there's this quote from Jim Carrey that I quite like that says, "Depression is just your avatar saying that it's tired of playing the role that it is currently playing." In that sometimes when you are depleting yourself performatively, right, doing things that seem adequate but are not in line with what you're doing, then you're sort of pouring out, but you're not getting anything back in. And so that drives you to a space where you either can decide if you are sufficiently aware of your emotions, or at some point your body just takes over and decides for you. But you said that you had a vision relatively early on and wanted to work in development, and that you wanted to work in development in Africa. And it seems like you did move in that direction, right? And were quite successful in that direction. So at what point did it stop being Wiatta? And it can be that it was, from the start, but at what point was there that disconnect? Do you think that the idea was not the right one from the start, or do you think it was how it was implemented? Was it the pace? Was it continuous influence that you got from people? Where did it stop being your story?
That is such a good question. It really it felt definitely Wiatta and organic from the beginning. I as a kid growing up in the States, my family moved to the States, we can say, because of the war in Liberia. They weren't able to go back. A lot of my family was already in the States when the war started. So it was like they can't go back home. And so I grew up hearing about the war. That was all I heard about. It was about the war. It was about, where home is. Home wasn't in the States. It's like our home is somewhere else and we can't go there. And so that really had a deep impression on me. So all the way through elementary school, high school, college, like everything I did was around the continent. All of my assignments, everything, I knew deeply that that's where I wanted to be and where I was going to be. And I was the first to graduate with African Studies major at Emory University, designed the major. I mean, just everything I did was the continent. And so it really wasn't a surprise when it was like, okay, I'm moving. And I did it at a time in my life when, everyone else is like building their careers, doing the I guess traditional path of, okay, I leave college, I get a job, I, climb up a ladder in a specific field. I was like, I'm moving to the continent. I want to learn what economic development looks like on the continent. And I want to be on the ground and see what's happening and test my theories and ideas. And so I moved to the continent, and it always was very purpose purposeful. I didn't do Peace Corps just because, oh, this is a good experience. I knew it was a good way for me to get on the ground, to learn French. I wanted to be in a French-speaking country so I could be able to go in between English and French-speaking countries. I even when I was starting Peace Corps, I told all of my colleagues who were in my cohort, like, I'm staying in Africa. Like, it was very, very purposeful for me. When I was in Peace Corps, I wasn't just in a village, just chilling, kind of if you know, like the idea of Peace Corps volunteers, it's like, oh, we're just, chilling in a village, doing nothing. I was, if you ask anybody, I was on some projects. I had like 5 projects going at the same time. I'm like, everywhere. I'm traveling from Conakry to Labé. I was based in Labé, like 10-hour drive. I'd go to Conakry, do an event, come back to Labé that night. I mean, 10-hour drives on terrible roads, most beautiful scenery you've ever seen. But I was purposed. Yeah. And then we started Dare to Innovate, me and a few of my colleagues. And from there, it was a movement. It wasn't that we're just starting an organization. For me, it was, this is a movement. Young people are the largest portion of the population. They're unemployed at 70%. If anybody is going to build the continent, it's going to be us. Yeah. And we need to be empowered to do that. And so for me, it wasn't that I was coming in as an organization helping people. It's like, we're doing this together. I'm here with you all. I'm a young African. We are building something together. And so it was always just very, very much filled with purpose. And I felt that very deeply. And it was probably around 2019, 2020, that maybe even started in 2018, but 2019 definitely, where it started to be more about, in Guinea and Conakry, I was known by everyone. I was a local celebrity. And it started to become more about what, like the celebrity of it. It became more about, what do people expect of me? I brought on board several business partners that put an enormous amount of pressure on me. I had investors at that time. And once you have investors, it becomes a whole nother ball game. So then I had that pressure. I mean, I was getting yelled at by my investors. I was getting yelled at by my business partner. I had a whole staff of 40 people who looked to me for the next, what is the next move? What are we doing? It just became, and then I had to be this figure. People started telling me, for instance, I would go out at night and people would tell me the next day, like, hey, someone told me that you were out, you can't do that anymore. Like, you can't be that person. You can't go out dancing. Like, I had to be this person, and it became more and more about that than the actual mission of being on the ground and building this movement. I didn't even, the first several years of Dare to Innovate, I didn't even do any publicity. I literally was just on the ground doing the work. Like, I was just there, and so that would be the point for me that it started to change. And then once I had a burnout, and when I had the burnout, I was very, very sick. I went home to the States. It was right during the pandemic. All the borders were shut down. Guinea was in political turmoil. And once I got home, my body literally gave out. I would like go to the store with my mom, for instance, for 15 minutes and come home and sleep for like 12 hours. It was insane. And so I was very sick, but I still was trying to push through. And that's when I started really building Aqua Farms Africa, which was one of my startups that then blew up. Like, there were fellowships, I was traveling, that's when I became a TED fellow in 2022. But for those few years, I was still very sick and still trying to push through because I was afraid of what it looked like to not. To just be. I was so afraid of what it looked like to let it all go. Even though I was struggling. Yeah.
we can go in so many directions.
Right.
There's so many interesting things that you say. And I think the first thing for me is a lot of times I hear stories where the disconnect happens much earlier, right? It's like, I don't want to do this, but my parents expected me to do this, or society expected me to do this, and that's what happened. And I think in your case, it's interesting because you did want to do it, and then you got there. And so it becomes a question of listening to self versus listening to people's visions and expectations of your vision.
Yeah.
And so I find that quite interesting. Jay-Z, actually, I was scrolling on Instagram the other day, and then Jay-Z, there was a Jay-Z quote that said that he trusted himself so much that he would never let people rush his process.
That is beautiful.
And that when people were like, no, this is the time, the song needs to go out, this needs to go out, this is the perfect time for it. His definition was, this is my gift. So I'm doing what I want to do when I feel like I need to do it, rather than, when you think it's useful. So I think there is an interesting thing there about how society defines success, and how you define success in terms of creating that movement. We see it. I work in the global development sector right now. And we've had massive cuts in funding because of the American government, so on and so forth. And donors are coming in and out with now the same objectives, but different views of how things need to be achieved. So for them, it's like, okay, well, from a results perspective, we need to push things that we can see. And so they need to be commodities, they need to be this, they need to be that. But then that derails from sometimes what you feel the priorities are that would actually drive that change. So I just thought that was an interesting point. But the one other thing that you said that I relate to a lot is the refusal to burn out, right? While you're actually burning out. And so how did you manage that, right? For me, the first time I had a burnout, I went to work every day and cried at work every day for 2 weeks. And then I went to see a doctor to tell the doctor to help me stop crying. Not to like figure out what the problem was. I was like, don't figure out the problem.
I don't want to go too deep.
I got places to go. Okay? I got things to do. Stop the crying. And it didn't work. And then I got put on sick leave. And I kept trying to work, and every time I kept trying to work, the recovery time got longer. Yeah. And I'm like, write one paper, and then, like you said, I'd just like sleep for like 4 days. Yeah. How did you get there? When did you stop?
Oh, you know what? I stopped when I moved to Senegal. So I pushed through 2 years. I would say 2020, I guess 3 years. 2020, 2021. 2022. It was 2 years of literally struggling to get out of bed almost every day. And I was living with my family in the States, and they saw what was happening. They saw it, and at the same time, like, saw me struggling behind the scenes, and at the same time saw like all of the accolades and everything that I was getting and what was happening externally. But yeah, it was when things started to just fall apart.
Yeah.
I was having major conflicts with my business partners, my investors, and I was still extremely sick. And there was a moment where I was like, I can't anymore. I can't anymore. I can't. Like, there was, before I moved to Senegal, there was a month where I literally was in bed almost every day. And it was like, I just can't anymore. Yeah. And so,
really gave up.
Like, my body gave up. Yeah, my body gave out. I couldn't anymore. I didn't have the energy to fight anymore. I didn't have it. It literally was no longer there. And it's amazing that over 2 years, I was even able to push through the way that I was. I don't even know how I was able to do, like, that just shows like how much willpower you can have to completely ignore your body
Yeah.
until it's too much. It's over.
I smile when you say that, because it's just like when your body gives out is the moment, it's surrender.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, has been the most difficult lesson for me in my life. Don't think I've learned it yet, but
girl, all of this is, like I said, I am in the middle of
process.
In the middle of when you first told me, sorry to interrupt you, but when you first said this is about becoming, I was like, does she know? She doesn't know that I'm like really in the middle of like how
we're not there. We're B. We're not in the. We haven't come anywhere. We're like in the
right.
B.
We're in the B part.
But it's just, and that's what it is. It's like you have these socially defined parameters of success, or at least that's how it was for me. And it was like, this is who I'm meant to be, and I am great at it. The business. And letting go of that means falling into a vacuum where you no longer have a definition for yourself.
Yeah.
Because for me, I was like, well, if I stop working and I'm no longer the best, like, well, who am I?
Ooh,
it's just,
girl.
And then it's just those existential moments feel like mini deaths, right? And that's what they call these ego deaths that happen all the time. And it takes so much that you would rather, like you say, invisibilize your pain and keep going than giving that, than to fix it. Because then at that point, your whole world crumbles, right?
Everything
crumbles. So it took, so you say your family saw it. How did your family react? Like, what was their role in all of this?
Oh, you know what? There's so many things there. I was actually about to ask you almost the same question too, but like, where did this need to succeed come from, right? This like not being able to stop in this identity of like being the best, right? And I know that particularly came from my family. Yeah. And I grew up in a family where, I mean, most immigrant families, right? Especially to the States, most immigrant families, like you need to be the best. You have to be the best. And with my family, it was that I come from a long line of leaders, of politicians in Liberia. We were one of the founding families of Liberia. Actually, I can't count how many greats, but my great-grandmother's great-grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence of Liberia. Okay. And so really like the founding fathers of the country, and politicians like presidents are in my line, governors, ministers, actually royalty as well on my grandmother's father's side. Can trace that back to the Camera royalty. And so we come from this, like, it's unspoken, you have to be above the rest. You have to be. Yeah. And so to go from that, where everyone in my family knew what their futures were. They knew what was they had the world kind of laid out for them, to having to leave Liberia, come to America, and start at zero. Nobody knows you here. Yeah.
Oh my God, so interesting. I think you're completely right. I think for me it was a confluence of factors, right? So I think personality probably has something to do with it. So I would like to take this opportunity to blame all of this on my older brother. It was his fault. He pushed me off the table when I was young.
It was that moment.
It was that
when
moment.
I hit the floor.
And I realized that it was not going to be okay. No. No, but I do think I think part of it, is how do you define yourself? What are your emotional needs? And then the way in which those emotional needs are filled by your parents. Like you say, I'm a very bright, loud, we're quite similar in that way. But I'm also a very emotionally needy person. I need to be validated.
Completely understand.
Tell me I'm great.
When I say you're telling me about myself, am I looking in a mirror right now?
Literally. And
That's
so
deep.
I think a lot of people pleasing started for me very early on when it was, again, because we come from structures that aren't very emotionally gratifying, right? People are not, I love you, you're so pretty. I worked for it. Right.
Yep.
So if they weren't going to tell me that just because, then I would mute myself when I was asked to mute myself. I would, perform at school when I was asked to perform at school, all of those kinds of things. And so that turned me into someone who based their identity on what other people wanted to see.
Absolutely.
All right. And so
Absolutely.
that becomes the first problem, because then you become performative in everything that you do. But in order to become performative, you sort of just close off things that I don't really want to do this, but and so you bring it in, and you become this fixed, strong, boxy thing that isn't yourself. But I think as well, because we grew up in the States, there were a lot of places where you also internalize some of the judgment that came from society, like racism in the US. And so your parents telling you that you always had to perform, but then society telling you that you should perform because are you even that good?
Right.
The patriarchy, just so many things that come at you that make you want to prove them wrong. And you become a version of yourself that is reactive to society rather than the version of yourself that is yourself. And so I think a lot of the breakdown just came when I was just like, I am tired of you people's opinions of me. And I'd like a nap.
Is where I'm at right now. And where I want to go is that I really deeply want to embody that to a point where I have courage. I rebuild courage and confidence in myself to forge my own path. And it's scary. It's so scary. It's so scary to say, when you've constantly succeeded and then you have such a deep fall, it is scary to get back up and start jumping again. And I've always been a jumper. Everyone else stops at the edge of the cliff. I just run and jump full-heartedly. That's been me my whole life. And so to be in a place where I've been afraid is like, who is this?
And what's going on?
What is going on? How do fear? So doing it afraid, not being afraid to mess up is big,
I feel like I'm talking to myself. I feel like we're the exact same person. And so it's refreshing to know that a lot of people are facing the same challenges. And I'm humbled by your experience, by your transparency, by your self-acceptance and willingness to share all of this. I think a lot of people would benefit from it. And I completely understand everything you're saying. I'm feeling like I could have said the same thing. I know we're at time and we need to go. And you've mentioned some of the things that you are trying to do, radical honesty, radical self-acceptance, grace, self-love. These are some of the things that I think we're all trying to work on. They're hard. And so is there any tool, anything that you do on a daily basis, weekly basis, anything that helps you with that people can take away from this session?
I've really been just pushing through it and saying, I can do this. I can do hard things. Regardless of what the outcome is, I can do this. And it's how you build courage. It's how you build confidence. And that's something that I'd always had confidence. At least externally. So if I dig deep, maybe there wasn't, there were holes in that. But I've never been this is the first time I've been in a place in my life where I've been afraid of my capacity, if that makes sense. And so I had to learn, what does it mean to build confidence? What does it mean to build courage? Because I've always had the courage.
Oh my
It's
God.
just doing it.
Such a wonderful place to land. Do it scared. Do it anyway. I can do hard things. That's going to be my takeaway from this. This has been the most humbling, best conversation ever. Complete mirror. It's been,
I feel like
kindred souls. Twins. I will petition for you to take my brother's place. So this is what came out of this podcast. I no longer have an older brother. I have a sister.
Hey girl.
Hey girl. Hey. Thank you so much, Wiatta.